My absolutely beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your weekly horoscope for the week of December 23rd. And this is our last full week in December before we're going to roll into 2025. So I just want to say happy last full week of the year. It has been a pleasure to be with you all year. It is going to be a pleasure to be of service to you all of 2025 as well. So if you have not already popped over and checked out your 2025 annual forecast video, make sure you pop over and check it out. 5 brilliant astrologers. We each laid out our particular sections that we are expert in so that it is a great guide for you for the year. As well, your 2025 digital transit calendar from our friends at Wise Guys Collective are also available. These are all guides and tools and resources for you to really navigate 2025 with a lot more ease, a lot more understanding, and speaking the language of astrology. But first, we need to do this week. We're going to do the last week of 2024. And congratulations, if you are watching this, you have effectively survived 100% of your life. We are making it here in 2024, and that's an absolutely beautiful thing. Now, the energies that we have on the table for this week, first of all, we have got 3 void of course moons happening this week, and it's not that that's uncommon, but one of them is particularly long. It's going to be a very, very long void of course moon as we are traveling and we get to Tuesday heading into Wednesday. So I want you to come into the week understanding that that particular day, it's Christmas Eve, it's heading into Christmas, the head games, the mind games, the amount of energy that is not about moving things forward. It is more about the rest and reorienting to what the situation, what the day, what your expectations have to offer. It's really very pronounced. So if you want to mark any day this week to definitely pay attention to, it's going to be Tuesday. There's also going to be timestamps in the description box down below so that you can walk through the opportunities and the challenges that this week's energy has to offer. All right, so first and foremost, we want to consider, as well as we are coming into this week, that we now have Mercury that has come out of retrograde, so we have been saved and relieved from that. So communication is a little bit more on board and up to speed. Decision making maybe has a little bit more clarity, a little bit more focus, certainly a bit more forward momentum. However, we are still under the Mars retrograde. So it tells us that even as we are traveling this week and finishing out the year, heading into 2025, that we're doing it with the brakes on. We're not moving as fast. Things are not being thrust forward as quickly as we like, the changes that we want to make. So what does this also bring to the table naturally is an irritability and a frustration because Mars, our action planet, we're not able to get it to do what we desire it to do. Instead, a better place to place that action and that energy is look at what do you already have? What do you have? Do you have a book you haven't read? What do you already have that you could put your energy and your effort into finishing so that your table is clear, right? You can come across when this Mars gets out of retrograde and you can say, okay, my table's clear. Now I can start something else and I have plenty of space to work on it. But particularly this week, where do you need to finish things to even make the energy of your week easier? Now, as we're coming into this week on Monday, we're coming in with the moon in the energy of Libra. So we're coming in on Monday, our moon day, with the moon in Libra, bring us a sense and a tone of cooperation. We're looking to cooperate. We're looking to have balance here. We want harmony. There's a lot more relational awareness. And again, it's this relation to, okay, who's in my space right now, right? One of the things my spiritual teacher and I talk a lot about is that when somebody is in front of me, to find the presence of the universe or their inner 5-year-old in them and give them the full attention, right? Can I stop doing? Can I stop scrolling? Can I stop just thinking about whatever I'm thinking about and give that person relational awareness? So this is something that we may be calling up as we are traveling here on Monday. And it is also a great energy with the moon here to prioritize connection, cooperation, compromise. How do we connect and compromise in our relationships? So as the moon comes in this week, there's an underlying vibration coming in of grace. And I love that because grace is the slack the universe cuts us for being weirdos, okay? And I know I need a lot of that grace. So as we're coming in this week and you're thinking about this, Where can you cut yourself some slack and give some grace? Where can you have a little bit of grace with others? Especially it's the holiday season, it's the end of the year. Where can you doesn't mean you have to brush things under the rug, right? Mars is retrograde, so we're looking backwards. If I don't like something, I will talk about a conflict, but I can do it with a little bit more grace. We're also going to see on Monday that the sun is squaring both of the nodes, the north and the south node. So this square creates challenge. The square is the 911 of our aspects, and it's saying you need to do something. I'm essentially, you are here and we're getting squished underneath there. And so it can be an aspect of tension, and we need to do something to get out of the box. But what do I do? Do I act on my north node? Do I act on that south node? Either way, there is a karmic reckoning that is happening right now. And so one of the things that calls me to my mind right away, because this is the end of the Aries Libra axis that we're really experiencing, is where do you feel like the sun, you're motivated to understand where you really are or are not in alignment with what you believe your purpose to be, right? Do you feel like, okay, I have put all my cards out on the table. I am genuinely moving towards what I feel called to do. And also, are you clear today on maybe what your purpose is? What is your life purpose? Or do you feel caught between the past and the future? And so the present is feeling a little spinny. Do you have old patterns that you need to release in order to be able to really fulfill your purpose? Something that I've been thinking a lot about is a quote I heard someone say. They said, it's your purpose is not what we typically think it is. Your purpose is what happens to other people when you do what you do. And I feel like this has been a beautiful reframing to come into the end of the year to think, okay, in my life, in my purpose, if I look at my astrological chart, right, one of the purposes I have absolutely is to teach, is to bring people to information, to nurture information to people, and to also put that in a structure. So what happens when I do that? It is alignment of both of my nodes, and what happens is people respond and they learn and they can breathe the information in. So when you look at the nodes in your chart, or you look at what you believe to be your purpose, what is that? When you do something, what happens to and for other people when you do that? That's a great place to look at if you're in alignment with your purpose. Now, the other thing that you can do here is to think about, have a reflection, allow this to be an energy of reflection and compromise, because sometimes who I have to compromise with is me, or I'm like, okay, I do have this old pattern that I see it now. Sometimes with an old pattern, just seeing it first, acknowledging that it's there, that it's an old pattern, that it's a little piece of insanity I used to live in, and I don't need to do that anymore because it's not serving me. That is as much growth as anything else, but I have to reflect on, as I'm living and moving and having my being, where do I feel that resistance? Where are you feeling resistance in your life? Where are you feeling like, no, I am genuinely clinging to this because it's comfortable, I need this to be the truth? Or to the other side, where are you like, yeah, I've seen those things and I don't have it all figured out, but I am ready to step into something else. This is a great aspect to consider that particular energy, okay? Now, when we get into Tuesday, this is where we are going to have this particularly long void of course moon energy. Now, this energy is going to go from Tuesday, December 24th. It starts at 3:43 a.m. This is Mountain Colorado time, so make sure you adjust your time zones. And it is going to go all the way until Christmas time, December 25th at 1:06 a.m. This is particularly long. And why I cover it being so long is because in a long void of course moon energy, first of all, the energy it's not the space where we're starting something new. It's a sluggish energy. There's no reflecting really going on. It's not bouncing off of another planet to help it stabilize what's happening. Instead, it's not the time to make those big decisions, start those new projects, or things that really are going to take your emotion to get behind it, your energy to get behind it. Instead, it's going to be focusing on that self-care, especially as the mind games kick up. I have found for myself, and clients have reported to me as well, when the moon is void of course for a long time, it's like you're just in the sea of the feelings, of the emotions. Old stories can come up. things get really nostalgic. You're just going someplace. And while this is a great journey to be taking, we do this. We do this all week long. We void, of course, moon, and we have a little nostalgic moment. And then in, 20 minutes, it's over. In 2 hours, it's over. Now we have got a fair amount of time. So you can be lost in it. You're almost too reflective if you don't know that that's the space that you're in. And I can share with you, for me, one of the times that I really had the experience of this is that I got up and I honestly felt so sad. I just felt so sad, and I had some memories coming up, and I was like, okay, well, that strikes an emotion, but I don't think it's this sad. And then the head game of sadness kept going. And I'm going to tell you what, about 30 minutes after the moon got connected and moved into its next sign, it was like that whole set of hours didn't really happen. I was like, yeah, well, that was a thing, and seems like I processed that. So I offer that, if that's your experience, that back up, do the self-care, finish up tasks, put your head where your hands are at if you're catching yourself in this energy, okay? Behind that, we're going to see that Venus, this is helpful. At 5:45 a.m., we can also use this, okay? Venus is going to come into a sextile with Chiron, and this is wonderful healing energy. Okay, this is a wonderful, wonderful healing energy, and Chiron is going to be coming direct at the end of this week as well. So Chiron's in these last days of its retrograde, relooking over this identity, relooking over where you understand that it's okay to be vulnerable, and your vulnerability brings growth, especially in terms of relationships, in terms of connecting, in terms of bringing what you really want, in terms of you offering yourself out as someone who is valuable, right? When I know my vulnerabilities, I know the story that I carry with me, and I can help someone else through it, which is a very Chiron activity. It's not just the wound, but it's because I've been able to address my emotional wounds of my identity, Aries, my emotional wounds of my self-worth, the way that I love myself, the way that I let myself receive, Venus. Now that I've had some experience with that, I can also help someone else because my wound is not as deep. It is healed a bit. Now I can teach someone else, show someone else. On the other side of that, it's also where maybe if I'm still hurting, I can allow someone now to walk with me towards a solution to not just hurting and aching, but what it requires. A way to align with this, and remember, we're in the heat of kind of a void of course time, so you're reflecting on several things right here. But the way to align here is to be honest with yourself. Be honest with others. What are your emotional needs? What do you need? What have you discovered that you need, right? Give that forgiveness that you've been denying. Accept an apology that you maybe will never get, right? So that you can have the forgiveness for yourself, your being, your pelvic bowl, your finances, your heart, compassion. Compassion and forgiveness and honesty are what pave the way for healing with this particular energy. Now, behind that as well, still during this void, of course, moon time, we will see Jupiter come into a square with Saturn. So this is another dynamic energy where Jupiter wants to expand. It's like, push them brakes, push them, let's go, right? And Saturn is like, pump those brakes, pump the brakes. Let's not go. So we also have this blend of wanting Saturn to create really strong structures. I want a structure, I want a container. And Jupiter, I want to outgrow and bubble over the container, right? So as these two come together, we've got the stop and we've got the start. So the challenge here under this square is that my expansion and my structure, I'm not exactly sure how to make this work, but I've got to do something. So if you're feeling torn here about, I do want to grow, but I also need to set boundaries. I also need to, Saturn and Pisces, have some real boundaries about what's going on. And I think that this is a perfect day for this energy, because if you align with this energy in the context of what Tuesday has to offer, and you're focusing on what are the practical steps, what are the practical things that I can do, what are practical ideas that I can form about long-term goals, long-term healing, without overly committing, without healing everybody's problems, without taking on all my family's emotional whatever, or all of the stories. If we use this energy, especially towards the middle portion of the day, to kind of prioritize what is sustainable and what brings growth. I think that this is a beautiful aspect to put into what we're considering here and working with on Tuesday, because there's a lot that can just be coming up. It's not all ours to solve, but it is, if it comes into our space, something we have to decide how are we going to participate. Does forgiving you give me long-term freedom? Does having compassion for you instead of judging you give us long-term connection to one another? That's an energy to consider on Tuesday. Okay, as we're rolling into Wednesday, we're still under that void of course moon energy as we come into the beginning of the day. But at 1:06 a.m., the moon is going to shift and move into Scorpio. So if you happen to be our friends or our overnight responders or something like that who are working late and you are in that void of course moon period, when we get to 1:06 a.m. Mountain Time, Colorado, the moon is now going to start to take shape, and you can kind of take a deep breath and come back out to play. And as the moon is traveling on Wednesday, on Christmas, happy Christmas if you celebrate, what we have the opportunity to do in Scorpio is to first of all realize there is some emotional intensity. Now listen, we are with our families, we are with our people, we are with holidays, it's end of the year, it's whatever your customs are in Capricorn season. And that in and of itself, that level of structure, responsibility, tradition, expectation, with the moon in Scorpio, we can be in that emotional intensity, right? We're like, okay, am I loyal to this tradition? Am I loyal to thine own self be true? What am I passionate about? There's a lot of introspection, and it too can go really deep when the moon is in Scorpio. And I say that because we've just come off of a very long void of course moon, which if used well, if acknowledged all the way through it, I think can be done beautifully. It can be very productive. But then we drop into the place where the moon is considered to be in fall. It's the deepest place. So there's a lot of exploration of the inner world. There's a lot of exploration of what are my motives? Why am I doing this? Deep conversations, meaningful conversations, conversations where things come out of hiding and are revealed. But I want you to remember that whatever hidden truths, even if they're the kind of hidden truths where you think, you know, I thought my family didn't like me. I thought my person didn't like this. I had a story about this my whole life. And then you're sitting around over the Monopoly game or whatever you do, and you find out that that was not actually what happened in the situation. That's as deep of a conversation as the ones where we have other revelations or secrets that come out that seem a bit more scandalous and dramatic, right? So just to have you understand that we can align really well with this, but it will go particularly deep. Now, there will be also, I think globally, just in general, as the moon does this couple days of travel through Scorpio, I think there's going to be more of a heightened sense of attention on still even global information and secrets coming out of hiding that may shift how we make decisions in 2025. This could be a lot more political, and certainly that can be a whole thing. Okay, when we are riding into Thursday, now we've got Mercury in an opposition to Jupiter. We've got the planet of the smaller mind and all of the details opposing or pulling in the opposite direction of Jupiter, the planet of the big mind, right? Mercury wants the details. Jupiter's like, I just want the big picture. So this opposition, we don't want the opposition to keep going, pulling. Instead, to relieve an opposition, what we want to do is walk them towards each other. Find the place where they can integrate in the middle, and then we have a working fulcrum here in the middle. So, you know, first of all, it's a communication set of planets. So you may have a lot of amplified communication going on. This may be a week of communication and information. Things are coming out. You're sharing things. You're revealing things. You're thinking about yourself. You're journaling. There's meditation maybe going on this week. But what it can also do is if we walk them towards each other, it creates the space for new ideas. What's the big idea? We want peace. We want forgiveness. We want unity. We want, what is it that you want that's the big idea? And then we can start to build some steps or share some information that moves us towards the middle to do that. Now, the challenge I do think with this is an over exaggeration possibility. You know, I caught a fish that's this big, and that doesn't, it sounds like a funny example, but when you're having a conversation with your family, your loved one, your job, your clients, and we over exaggerate and under promise, that is an issue. And misunderstandings under this aspect can absolutely come to the table. So I say, if you'd like to have a practical way to align with it, just stay grounded to the best of your ability. Stay grounded in the conversations that you are having. Avoid, Mars is still retrograde, avoid making any really impulsive commitments or any really impulsive comments. Double check everything. Even Santa has to double check the list. He has to check it twice, right? So double check your plans, your tickets, your designs. You know, I bought these tickets months ago. We're going to go see this show on Christmas night. Make sure you see what time it actually starts. Double check, okay? So Thursday is your double check day. When we get to Friday, we've got Mercury now in square to Saturn. Okay. So again, we've got another square. So this is bringing a little bit of tension and we need to do something. And the aspect of challenge here is about, now I've got this mental block or something is blocking my communication, right? Or to the other side of it, I need to have a really serious, honest conversation or discussion about something. And I maybe don't feel exactly clear, or I don't feel comfortable talking about it. I feel like something is restricting what I'm allowed to say, even if it's my own stuff. Maybe it's not necessarily another person, but there can be something that feels like there's a restriction in my conversation. So a way to work with it is, first of all, you checked your list on Thursday, you were checking the details, check the details of what it is that you want to talk about this week. Is it an old story from the past? Is it a project that you're working on? Is it plans that you want to make? Just check your details. Right? Get very detailed. Focus on those details. And if you have to have a difficult conversation, we need to talk about the budget. Okay, I'm coming into the budget conversation with my exact numbers. Here's the exact amount of debt I have. Here's the exact amount of assets that I have. Come with the facts. And I think that's a better way to work with the square, because if not, it's like the delay is there. There's some kind of restriction. And again, it can be a little bit more for misunderstandings. Just behind that, at 7:23 a.m., we're going to see that the moon goes void, of course, until 12:46 p.m. Mountain Time. Moon's, the energy is flat. So again, we're in a position of don't push forward. Let's finish what's on the table. Let's handle what's right here in our purview. Focus on reflection. Do some self-care in that time if you can. As we get to 12:46, so midday, we will see that the moon now shifts into Sagittarius. And we have had the holidays in the deepest, most reflective, what are my motives kind of energy, which is great because it can also be so transformative in how we're connecting with other people. It's deeper, it's more intimate, it's lush. And then we're going to take the moon into Sagittarius where it's lighter. It's lighter. There's optimism. There's some enthusiasm about what's going on. I want to adventure. I've learned these truths. I've gathered this information. Now my emotions are ready to go on the next part of the journey. You know, it's kind of that when you know the story better or you know another truth, you can apply it and expand out with it in some way. So embrace it. You know, first of all, enjoy it. Enjoy Sagittarius. Try those different snacks. Try those different foods. Be curious. Explore new ideas. Explore a different perspective. Talk about it from an emotional place with the people around you. Be inspired to learn something else or have a different truth, especially emotionally. Travel, create things. Let this be a moon that brings some play or some curiosity back into your vibration. End of the day, we see Venus square Uranus, okay? And this is really going to be the end of the day heading into that Saturday morning vibration as we see that there, okay? So just kind of think about that from Friday night moving into the Saturday morning vibration. So this aspect, again, is a square. And where it's bringing us is, first of all, Uranus is Uranus, surprise, change, innovate. This came out of nowhere suddenly. In Venus, these can be really big changes that happen to your relationships, things that happen to your finances, things that happen to your self-worth. And in the square here, what I want to say with Uranus, you have to be flexible. A Uranus interaction requires a massive amount of flexibility. You've got to be the reed that bends, but it doesn't break. You can kind of go, you know what I'm actually thinking about? Do you guys remember at the like the car dealerships and stuff, they have those little wind guys and they just are like doing this. They're like rolling with the everything that's going on with the breeze of the wind. This is kind of what I think about. Stay flexible to it. Stay open to change, but Mars is still retrograde. Don't make a rash decision. Don't make a rash decision. Be honest, communicate from honesty, communicate from a place of your worth, of your value, of your worthiness, about your finances, in your relationships. That's all of your relationships, about the things that you do value right now, right? If you value a different set of principles than someone else does, that's okay. You can be sharing who you are while also being mindful of another person without acting impulsively. And I think that that's what this energy calls for. And we can absolutely, I think, coming through and heading towards 2025 again globally, expect to hear things shifting in the markets. Expect to hear more things shifting in the global alliances that are set up right now. And that, again, will have a lot of impact in how we come into 2025. Now, on Sunday, we are going to see Chiron come direct in the vibration of Aries. And Chiron's direct motion here, I'm really excited about it for us because Chiron's been retrograde in Aries for quite some time. We have really been working on the wound of our own identities. Who am I? How do I dress myself? How do I regard myself? How do I value myself? How do I assert myself, right? We've worked with the node in Aries all year. This has been a lot of really big work into how do I carry and demonstrate my fire, which I think is absolutely precious to each of us. So now as Chiron is in its direct motion here, not only at a personal level, but I do think it plays into the collective as well, where you know where you stand a lot more. I know that today, maybe I don't know it all, but today this is my center. This is my being. This is how I get to Aries. This is how I get to start things. This is how I get to say what I need. I get to tell you that I like the way we're interacting. I don't like the way that we're interacting. Reflecting on how the wound of my past self, my past being, how I've shown up before, how that version of me won't serve my life anymore. And what did I learn from that past version? And also accepting with confidence that you too have new actions and a new being. And how do I come across to be able to embrace that or to break with you, right? So aligning with this energy as Chiron is coming direct, man, being proactive towards actually living and letting more assertively this new version of you take the stage and be out here, a recognition of the parts of you that have healed and developed, and they are ready to take the reins and take you where you're going next. They're ready to take the reins and heal some things from the past that are not working out for you anymore, that this version of you needed to come into play before that could be healed, right? And you can be empowered. Chiron coming direct is an empowerment to your new identity, your new being. And I want each and every single one of us to really deliciously embrace. Now, you'll have plenty of time to do all of that embracing as the moon steps into its next void of course time. And this is going to be at 4:34 p.m. and it'll go until 9:37 p.m. So just about 5 hours of void of course moon energy, where the energy is flat. Over the next couple hours, review, finish things up. Remember, the universe is kind, and rest. There have been so many shifts. The world has shifted. The world has changed. Allow yourself to rest, to receive care, to receive energy from restorative poses, remembering that not being in motion, being a human being, is just as valuable as being a human doing. I think that's what these void of course moon times are trying to remind us. After that, you can get busy being a productive little beetle, because the moon will shift into Capricorn just after that. And now we take on our once a month check-in. First of all, or what do I need to do? Where are my structures? Am I solid? Have I created emotional structures for myself? Do I need to delegate some things because emotionally I'm carrying too much? Where do I need to be a bit more emotionally or even physically disciplined so that my energy is not waning, so that emotionally I'm sorted? What are the long-term projects emotionally I am investing in, I am engaging in right now, especially for my freedom, to be able to build my legacy, to be able to stand the test of time, to be responsible for emotionally? Where am I taking responsibility for myself? It's a great opportunity while the moon is in Capricorn to really focus on practical things, practical matters, right? Practically, if I eat sugar, if I know that when I eat sugar, emotionally, it sends me spinning, it gets my body inflamed, practically, at an emotional level, I can set a clear goal and a structure to not do the sugar thing, right? What is something else? It's a very practical matter. I can set a clear goal for it. I would like to emotionally develop my business sense. I would like to be able to hold a greater container for compassion with other people, right? Whatever it is. Here, as you're traveling through the rest of Sunday and going to move into Monday, remember that emotionally, even if we can take a more structured approach, grounded approach to what we're trying to do, what we're trying to plan, whether it be the next week, the next year, the next meal, we're going to end up having a lot more success working under that Capricorn structure. And Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So this is where you get to have the energy to make a solid plan, to make a fresh emotional start for yourself. All right, my absolutely beautiful friends, I hope you have a gorgeous week. I love you a ton. I look forward to seeing you next week, where I will get ready to officially say happy end of 2024 and happy new year 2025. All right, guys, I'll see you next week.